Exoticals, and I'm back with another video for you guys. I know I haven't been posting as much recently. For the next year or so, you guys just know I'm really going to be focused on school, so expect me to post maybe once or twice a month, if that. I'm not ignoring you guys, and I'm definitely not closing the channel. Just want to let you know as a quick PSA. Today's video was inspired by the email sent to me by Maya, who gave me permission to not only show her face, but to share her story. She writes, "Hello, my name is Maya, and I'm a new subscriber to your YouTube channel. I found you and Exoticals United the other day, and I've been binge watching ever since. I found your email in one of the videos, and I'm asking for suggestions. I'm an elder millennial who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and it has been so refreshing and validating to see the movement happening in the mixed/exotical community. Growing up, we didn't have much of a voice, and biracial was not even a term back then. We all just had to be lumped in the black box, and you better not say anything otherwise. I come from a MGM, multi-generationally mixed family, and was actually raised with a very mixed identity. I was actually told we weren't black and don't identify as such. Our main mix was black, indigenous, Irish, Scottish, Dutch, Native American, Asian on my mom's side, and on my dad's side, American, Indian, Irish, Portuguese, English, Native American, and Asian. I actually grew up with much more of my indigenous Cherokee and Choctaw and Irish identity than anything else." She goes,
Usually when people say the whole Cherokee thing, it's not real, though. So that's why I'm like, usually when someone says Cherokee, they'll end up with a whole bunch of sub-Saharan African ancestry because those Cherokees are really just people who are black people who have lighter skin tones. Usually. They don't usually have actual Native American heritage in them, And out of the thing with the identifying as mixed, that's based off of family differences. See, black Americans have European in them. On average, about a little less than a quarter and less than 3/4 black African. That's what black Americans are on average, as well as a little bit of Asian. So black Americans on average can say that to their children and their families, that they're actually mixed and not black. It all depends on the black person, though. There's some black people who are really not appreciative of black ancestry, so they will try their hardest to get away from black ancestry and tell their children they're mixed. And then there are other black people who are proud enough to be a black that they will be like, we're black, and they'll tell their kids that they have white ancestry and Asian ancestry and so forth. Why can't you be proud of both situations? Why do you have to run so far from blackness as if blackness is a bad thing? This is what creates the type of black person that's kind of bitter about being black. But anyway, continue.
On to say, "Despite the fact that I've never identified as black or exclusively black, I've been relegated to that box and shunned by it at the same time. People my age, are not catching on as fast as younger mixed folks, and I'm glad to see the exotical sphere. It's been a pretty lonely journey. You're not black, you're not biracial, but you're black passing and mixed as fuck. I'm giving very much Kellis or Rachel True. Anyways, I am reaching in the hopes to share my experience of being an older brown multiracial exotical and why this movement is so important for mixed race people. A lot of us have been forced to be silent most of our lives, and we are ridiculed and shamed when we try to speak up for ourselves. I'm glad to see the tide is finally starting to turn. Hope we can connect at some point, and I'll keep enjoying your channel until then. Peace, love, and exoticals, Maya." I love that sign off, that signature. It was beautiful. Now, 3 things that she said and mentioned that stuck out to me. 1, this recurring theme with biracials, mixed race people, exoticals, people who are racially ambiguous. keep saying, especially if they grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 1000s, that they were shunned for calling themselves mixed and they were automatically lumped in the black box. So when we get faced the question, why don't you just identify as biracial? Why don't you just call yourself mixed? We know it's pure gaslighting because even when we do, we get told it's not that deep. Why are you saying mixed girl in your bio for social media? Why are you putting curly head in your username? You're corny, you're a colorist, you're a texturist, blah, 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 blah. And then
I don't think it's quite that. I think it's just the fact that Black Americans all have the same qualities you're talking about. But the only thing is, these are usually the type of black people she's talking about are basically the types that are so desperate to be mixed. They're really literally going off of a hair texture to determine how black they are. Like they'll be this channel is basically for dark skins. If you look at the photo reference that she's showing people who have dark skin, but she's showing people with like curly hair. The funny thing is, most black people have curly hair, which is like, to me, really odd. Like, why are you trying to say off of a hair texture? And then you're saying, oh, my hair curl was not as curly as someone else's, so that means I'm mixed. This is desperation on such a high level. I don't even know why anyone would even try to do this. Like, most people are gonna obviously act like it's not that deep because, I mean, you're really literally going off of something that's really ignorant, honestly, because it's like that's not even reality. You know, I have relatives that have very wavy hair, they don't even have curly hair, and they're around 80% African. So, I mean, like, it's not really any different than any average black American who's 73% black. So, I mean, your hair not being as tight as a 4C curl doesn't mean you're mixed. I mean, I don't have 4C hair either. Most black Americans don't. Continue though.
another thing she mentioned that stood out to me is when she said she grew up in a family that told her automatically, you're mixed. Sad to say, because of society and the brainwashing of so many mixed and exotic people, you will see people who are clearly as day mixed and biracial, but they will still raise their kids to believe, no, but you're black. But you're black. Society sees you as black. And one of the people who is famous, and he's known for
For one, with black Americans, like I said, you're depicting how black Americans can say that they're mixed in those situations, and then depicting that it's not the case with some people. Um, the thing I'm kind of finding weird is you're trying to say it's off of looks. And you're so desperate in looks, too. You're saying like a curl pattern makes you mix, or some feature that you have makes you mix. You have to understand black Americans on average are 73% black. You mean to tell me you think that black Americans on average are going to have all the features in common with black African people who are dark skinned? When black African people aren't even all dark skinned, nor do they have all the same facial features in itself, you know. But especially when someone is 73% black on average, that means they're actually closer to 50% than 100% on average. Um, so the whole looks thing, phenotype thing is dumb, it's stupid, and also one other thing I wanted to point out was it's funny you try to bring up people being MGM when you're talking about someone being lighter skinned, someone having a slightly less curly hair pattern or different nose structure, different eyes or whatever. Um, they are MGM. But a dark-skinned black person who looks what you think a black person should look like is somehow not MGM. Well, that's not true, and that's not how science works. You see, the difference in Black Americans' phenotype goes all the way back to the whole situation of MGM situations. This is why in our families we can have a varying amount of different phenotypes. We can have mixed phenotypes, and we can have more ethnic phenotypes, basically, in the same family. And the reason why is because, honestly, our chromosomes aren't all the same. See, you could be like 90% sub-Saharan African on your estimate, but your chromosomes are going to range from around 50 to 60%, all the way up to 100% sub-Saharan African ancestry. So you could look like you are around the 50 to 60% African range while being 90% African, because your chromosomes aren't all the same. Black Americans never have just 70% African throughout their chromosomes.
All right, Deanna, you have to go.
Is, quote, pro-blackness, which ironically is a biracial man, is President Barack Obama. And this was a study that illuminates why multiracial Americans almost never call themselves white. And
well, for one reason, biracials don't call themselves white is because of the fact that white people are very different from biracials. See, even people like, for example, what's her name? Fiona Apple, for example, doesn't look like a black person, even though she has a lot of white in her. Most white people won't accept her phenotype as a white phenotype because, well, she doesn't look like them completely. And because whiteness is so hard to imitate, basically, for mixed people, it's quite obvious they're mixed. The idea that you think that it should be encouraged for biracials to identify as white leaves the idea of the whole thing where you do believe whiteness is better than what you are. And that's why you need to get as far as you can from blackness. But people will always see you as black, and you will always be troubled by the fact that you are black. See, pro-blackness is not just for people who are 100% black. It's for anyone who is black, anyone who has black in them. Why would you want to be against something that is in you? Just like pro-whiteness, like white, like loving yourself for the white you have in you and not hating whiteness, that would be basically in favor of what you are if you have white in you, regardless of how much white you have in you. If you hate 10% of white that you have in you, you're hating yourself. If you hate 10% of black that you have in yourself, you're hating yourself. Continue though.
And I'll add on why they never call themselves quote unquote biracial or quote unquote mixed. Barack Obama says, I'm not sure I decided it. He said once in an interview with 60 Minutes. I think you know if you look African American in this society, you are treated as African American. He later told PBS, if I'm outside your building.
Because black Americans are mixed, so the whole mixed phenotype gets included with blackness because black Americans are mixed. On average, they're 73% black. It's hard to deny that there is white ancestry in black people, therefore technically they are mixed. That means that the phenotypes of black Americans are going to be including mixed phenotypes. And largely too, because 73% is closer to 50 than it is to 100%. And so it's not just phenotypes like Barack Obama, which Barack Obama doesn't have a mixed phenotype. He has a black phenotype. We can find people in Cameroon, Congo regions, and even some parts of southeastern Nigeria that have his exact phenotype, down to his nose. Um, so it's not really that he has a mixed phenotype, he has a black phenotype. But there are plenty of people who do have mixed phenotypes. For example, you could be like someone like Joe Noah, or you could be like someone like Housey, or you could be like someone like Delonte West, who's black. You see, the different phenotypes can have phenotypes in common with a black person who has that same phenotype. See, I know you would try and say those black people are not really black, they're just mixed, but they come from the same families you're calling black because they're dark skinned, and you think that dark skin and unambiguous means that they're fully black. See, looks don't have to do with genetics. Genetics could be the same for someone who is as white looking as Halsey as to someone who is as dark skinned as Kelly Rowland. So, I mean, it could literally be that they're both genetically the same ethnic background, just displaying different phenotypes because black Americans have a mixed phenotype that is capable of having many different phenotypes. So continue.
Trying to catch a cab, they're not going to say, oh, there goes that mixed race guy. And that literally rings true for so many brown and quote unquote black passing exoticals. And also, not just black passing, but any exotical who's not white passing on our side of the spectrum. So your her, your Janae Waltons, just different Blasian.
Also, people who are white passing sometimes are still seen as black or mixed race, basically.
In Afro Latino, these types of exoticals. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and I definitely don't want to speak on the issue of being biracial because, in my case, I am MGM, I'm not. But one thing we can all agree on is the fact that we do have racial fluidity based on where we go. For all my exoticals who travel, you know that what people assume your race and your ethnicity is depends on where you are. A mixed woman can be the same mixed woman, but in the North, they'll assume she's one thing. In the South, they'll assume she's Creole. If you go to the Caribbean or Latin America, they'll assume you're Latino, that you're Panamanian, Dominican, maybe Cuban. Or if you go to Africa, they're going to assume you're a colored. So we understand how we're never in one place, but when we use this racial fluidity for ourselves, then it becomes an issue. And I'm happy that this woman who
That's not quite true. I mean, you're talking about them, but you know what would trigger you more? Is about the fact that dark skinned black people who you call unambiguous can go to the Caribbean and oftentimes get called Douglas. Many of them are thought to be Trinidadian, which means they are black and Indian. Many of the time, they can go to other places and they aren't perceived as just black. It depends really. So I don't really get why you just assume that that's a case for people who have a slightly less curl or lighter skin. That's not the case. Anyway, race is not even determined by your skin tone or your hair texture, it's determined by your facial features. Just a point to mention. And if you look at a lot of black Americans as far as their facial features, it's not specifically negroid, technically. That makes sense because 3/4 of the DNA, less than 3/4 of their DNA, goes back to Africa. So obviously, their facial features are going to have influence from other people as well. Continue.
shared her experience with me via email earlier, who was able to grow in a family dynamic that told her you're mixed. But I see with my channel, and it breaks my heart when I see other mixed and light skinned people and exoticals who were socialized by their mixed race families as well as by education and societal standards that you're black. Society sees you as black. I hate anytime I hear any other.
What is wrong with you, though? When you are saying that someone is told by their family that they're black, when in reality, many times you're talking about people who in a family you would call them black, but once you see someone who is lighter skinned, once you see someone with a different curl pattern, that one particular person is not black in a family that is black. It doesn't make any sense because you're going off of phenotype instead of genotype. And when you do that, you're just going off of ignorance.
Biracial or multiracial person say that, because that immediately dismisses all our problems as mixed race people and our experiences as well as our abuse. On the flip side of the spectrum, you have our exotical and mixed race brothers and sisters who are more quote unquote white passing. And as I've said it before, but I'll say it again, white passing does not just mean pale skin. White passing means pale skin, thin lips, slim nose, all the features that are commonly associated with white people. Then they are white passing. Only black.
That you do know there are black people who are white passing as well, just pointing that out. Because that's the whole thing about mixed phenotypes is every mixed phenotype has a black person with over 70% African in them on the average spectrum of black American ancestry. I know my cousin literally has a phenotype the same as Halsey. He's basically the male version of her. And he's over 70% sub-Saharan African. So yeah, continue though.
Americans seem to think that because your skin is lighter, you're automatically white passing, and that's not the case. And the funny thing is, the number one people who are oftentimes victims of Black Americans, as well as the whole talk of racial issues, happens to be mixed race and exotical children. People love to say which mixed race kid is more attractive, which mixed race kid is more cute. Oh, that girl's ugly. Oh, she has nappy hair. Oh, look at your nose, your feature, your face, you're black. As soon as culture was born, all the dark-skinned black women who hated the fact that Cardi B called them roaches.
Why did you just attack Cardi like that? Cardi didn't even say anything like that. Cardi isn't a colorist. People keep always trying to say that Cardi is a colorist. Cardi is not. Cardi is loving and appreciative to dark skinned people. So, I mean, like, I don't think she's really negative towards dark skinned people. She doesn't seem like it to me, at least. Now, I kind of think with Cardi B that it's weird with you guys because one, Cardi B isn't really mixed in my opinion. Her father is mixed, her mother is black. That means that her percentage is probably going to be around 60% sub-Saharan African ancestry, which is over the 50% range. Now, you mean to tell me that you add that plus her man, who is probably more African than that her kid is somehow mixed, but black Americans aren't? Makes no sense. You don't understand the history of black Americans, but black Americans generally are basically the combination of a mulatto and a black American, or I mean an African. Well, a black American that has a little European ancestry, like 4% or so, basically. That's what a black American is on average. So technically, you would think they might actually on average be less black than culture, but you're trying to say culture is mixed, but black Americans on average aren't, even though on average they're 73% black. Make it make sense. See, you live on ignorance and then you get disproven each and every time because you didn't actually deal with the facts and reality. So everybody living in reality looks at you like what you are, ignorant and unable to actually deal with how it actually is, not how you want it to be. Continue though.
Decided to jump and attack her child, a child. And it's so hypocritical, and it frustrates me because we as a mixed race people know that we come in every shade and every size, because they'll sit here and want to make exoticals or procreate with us, then give exoticals hell as they grow up, and then expect us to have amnesia and forget about all this abuse and just plight for them, but never fight for ourselves. And we're not going to do that here. We have to understand anytime we get asked those gaslighting questions, why don't you have this same smoke for white people? Why don't you want the validation?
When you don't fight for yourself, people are going to trample all over you. When you don't fight for yourself, you're just going to create more of the idea and the mentality you have for yourself. See, you are a self-hating, dark-skinned black woman. That's what you are. And you don't like black women, but the sad thing is you are a black woman. So when you don't try to fight for yourself as a black woman, society will see you the same way you feel about yourself, which is hate. Just saying, it's not a good situation to put yourself in, and that's why black women and black men expect other black people to fight for black people to have a better image in reference to people of other races, because you do know that people of other races just see a dark-skinned black woman. Honestly, if I was looking at you, I would see you as just a dark-skinned black woman, and I'm within the race. So, just saying.
Of your other side's not just black. Why don't you call yourself mixed? Or all those other questions, we know to ignore it. We've seen that before. We're not even going to address them at this point. I needed to be where us as mixed race people are fine and comfortable having our own spaces. Selfishly, we need to be selfish with the fact. And it's as simple as no, you don't get to call yourself an exotical. You don't get to call yourself mixed race because you want a safe haven for you guys. If you're a black woman, go to Chris.
Okay, so you're saying that black Americans who have more non-black in them can't call themselves mixed, despite the fact that you think culture is mixed simply because her mother is light-skinned? Yeah, it just seems like you're just having your own issue because you're probably thinking maybe you come from a light-skinned mother and you want to be mixed. Is that what it is, or what is that? Like, how can you say culture is mixed, but black Americans who have been tested as 73% black, and that means that basically they're the combination of someone who is mulatto for sure and someone who is majority black, not even fully black at that, because it's 73%, it's not 75%. That somehow these people are not mixed, they're not able to claim their European ancestry because you're angry at them and you feel they have treated you poorly for your curl texture being a little too loose. Because it's not even because of skin tone, because you've used skin tone references before. The reference you're using is a dark-skinned individual. So to me, it's just like, I don't get what you're doing at this point. I mean, you're using the term brown skin, but you're using the term brown skin just like a dark skin uses it, basically, from what I'm saying, which is interesting. But yeah, I'll say my last commentary.
Or Paris Milan or all of those colorism crybaby channels, because you don't get to infiltrate this space, and we're really trying to create a safe haven. Exoticals United, Multiracial Movement, Golden Goddess, myself included, and all the amazing exotical and biracial channels that keep popping up every day. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit with you guys, and I know that kind of felt like a...
So, I don't understand why you thought that as a colorism crybaby issue, though. I kind of see you as a colorism crybaby, just a different type, but the same thing, basically. I mean, you are the one who is basically trying to act like someone because their curl pattern is a little bit straighter, that means that they are somehow mixed or something. And you are the one who's basically trying to say that you don't like black women, even though you hold the image of a black woman to society. You are black. There's no way to go around it because you have black in you. So you're literally saying that you want to be in an environment that is anti black, anti you, because you hate you as much as everybody else hates you. Um, that is very similar to colorism crybabies. See, colorism crybabies are always angry because they're dark skinned. You are angry because you're dark skinned. You are angry because you're black. You are angry because you look like dark skinned black women, and that's why you rage against them so much like this. It's so funny. It reminds me of that other girl that looked like a dark skinned black girl who was trying to rage against dark skinned black women. Why is it those who look the most like dark skinned black women attack dark skinned black women the most when they don't want to be dark skinned black women? It looks lame and it looks messed up, honestly, because now people are thinking, you are someone who doesn't really like what you see in the mirror, and your main anger is not dark skinned black women, but the fact that you look like them and are basically the same thing, just with a curl pattern that's slightly straighter. I mean, come on now. This is just, I don't know, this is just weird. But yeah, to me, I just think that this is like, don't make it so obvious, okay? Don't. Your problem is the same problem as a colorism crybaby. You know, colorism crybabies want to be light skinned. Colorism crybabies don't want to be black. Colorism crybabies have a bad view of black women. And you don't want to be dark skinned. You don't want to be black. And you have a bad view of black women while being dark skinned. It's the same thing as a colorism crybaby from my eyes. So that's all I have to say here. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, comment down below, and have a great day. Bye.